Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We have 4 brand new films to cover this week, including 2 for theaters and 2 for streaming. And that means we have a fantastic show lined up this week. We have movies surrounding male strippers and cocaine with Magic Mike, The Last Dance, and Cocaine Bear. I love to keep it classy on the show at any given time. Also on the show, now streaming, con artists take on a billionaire and nobody can be trusted in the Apple TV Plus original, Sharper. A group of friends take a trip to the desert where a phenomena occurs in the found footage film, The Outwaters. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch, a roar and a burst of flames. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
You need people like me.
The Wire. And here we go.
Magic Mike, played by Channing Tatum, takes to the stage again after a lengthy hiatus following a business deal that went bust, leaving him broke and taking bartending gigs in Florida. For what he hopes will be one last hurrah, Mike heads to London with wealthy socialite Max, played by Salma Hayek, who lures him with an offer he can't refuse and an agenda all her own, with everything on the line where Mike has to put on the biggest show of his career, again, with the help of a new batch of dancers in Magic Mike's Last Dance.
What did you want before Miami?
I just wanted to escape my life. Do you like bartending?
It's not really what I do.
What is it that you really do? But then you came along and gave me this unexpected, magical moment that made me remember who I really was. Come with me to London. Let's go.
Why are you in London?
I'm gonna put on a show at this famous theater.
People are numb, disconnected. We're gonna wake them up with a wave of passion they've never felt before.
Hell yeah.
Without further ado, I give you the visionary artist, Magic Mike.
So,
The real question is, why do you love her?
no one's believed in me like your mom has. So what's this show about?
It's the same old, will she marry for love or money?
So what does she pick? Love or money?
The real question is, why does she feel like she has to choose?
It sounds to me she just needs to let go.
And some good.
Maybe that as well.
You're not shutting me down, not this time.
You're so good at this. I'm not gonna just let us give up on it.
I want every woman that walks into this theater to feel that a woman can have whatever she wants, whenever she wants.
Wait, I know you. You were a cop, right?
Did you arrest her?
What's your name?
Kim?
Let you out for the warning, right?
And yes, I was the only guy in this theater when viewing Magic Mike's Last Dance. And open and honest, I didn't view the previous two films until a couple of days before actually seeing the newest Magic Mike. I figured, to be fair, give them a try, so I go into my wife's saved digital movies, scrolling through films such as Blue Crush, Bridget Jones' Diary, Failure to Launch, and The First Wives Club. I eventually got to the M's, and now there they are. From all three installments of Magic Mike movies, the third movie, Magic Mike's Last Dance, can be said to be the most romantic one, bringing back writer Reed Carolyn from the previous two films and director Steven Soderbergh that was absent from Magic Mike XXL. The movie starts with great chemistry between Magic Mike, played again by Tatum, and his new love interest Max, played by the lovely Salma Hayek. However, due to its focus on a cohesive, bloated romance story instead of the fun dance and party scenes like its predecessors had, this creates story limits and a balancing act of what could have been a fun finale. After viewing all three Magic Mike films, I discovered quite a bit of tone differences in between each one. We take our first film, which was a tame attempt to show aspects and behind the scenes of a life as a male entertainer. It was toned down to relate to its target audience, with Matthew McConaughey being more memorable than Magic Mike. We get into the second film, Magic Mike XXL, which turned out to be nothing XXL about it. It was a rated R male version of Pitch Perfect with dancing. And then we get into Magic Mike's Last Dance, which is the male rated R version of Made in Manhattan, which is even tamer than the previous two. Now, understood that the first film, I was not the target audience, nor was I the target audience for the second. While watching the third film, I still think I wasn't the target audience. I had a different reaction than probably most people viewing this film. After watching the first two Magic Mikes and even this one, the only thing I can think of after watching our male entertainers is, how does the stripper get all those dollar bills after a rain shower of money floods the stage? You see a ton of money, and then you only see a male stripper walk off stage with maybe $10 bills in his G-string. And you know I'm not the target audience when I wanted the filmmakers to cut away from the male strippers and show me who is cleaning up that money. Show me the guy with the broom. But with that aside, those of you that have seen the trailers to Magic Mike Last Dance, you can see the attempt after viewing that even though I was not the primary focus of the target audience, the movie spread its entertainment value a little wider, knowing with the third installment it was going to have to reach multiple audiences. And in doing so, lost a lot of its balance. It tries to do so much and overcomplicates what the film identity is. This is one of those movies that all the memorable best scenes are actually in the trailer, with nothing else refreshing to watch. But I will give the film credit is that all the side characters were a huge improvement and really fun to watch. Especially Max's servant Victor, played by Adoob Khan Din, who gets all the fun elements of this screenplay. He is a subtle comedy relief character that seems to be the voice of reason for our main character's actions while the story unfolds. As we go into the sequel, writer Reed Carolyn's dialogue seems to get weaker, more basic, and shorter as our characters deliver their lines. You saw a tremendous amount of confidence in the first film, but as we get further away from the original idea, Carolyn seems to get lost after the original source material. It loses its heart, and that's not a good thing to do when the third movie's intent is to surround its themes around heart and love. This is where the film truly falls flat, and we lose investment or commitment with Tatum and Hayek. If it wasn't for their on-screen likability together, the dialogue would have been up front and center and more apparent, but the cast does a fantastic job intercepting the writing flaws. Magic Mike's Last Dance managed to capture all of its predecessors' charming plot points and the chemistry original fans will enjoy. However, too much story limits some of its potential fun, and that takes away from the excitement of the climax. The film promises an amazing final show, but it lacks any hook or excitement. The one thing I will give the second installment, XXL, the choreography was at least engaging and entertaining. This choreography was a safe lullaby snooze fest. There was nothing engaging, there was nothing memorable about it. Overall, Magic Mike's Last Dance is an okay film with great chemistry from Channing Tatum and Salma Hayek. Despite its flaws, it is well-mannered compared to its predecessors. Some may be disappointed at knowing this depending on why you go see Magic Mike. But the movie shows off that it's not just about male stripping, but also falling in love, and I am happy to see Magic Mike attempt to try and settle down and start getting his life together. If we see any more random coincidences or characters attempt to pull him out of retirement again for one more dance for yet another final strip show, it might seem a little redundant. I'm giving Magic Mike's Last Dance 2 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews on previous episodes for movies that are available to rent, buy, and stream now. Now available. One of the best performances you would have saw in 2022 by Brendan Fraser in one of my favorite movies of the year is The Whale, which received 3.5 stars. A choice to save your family or save humanity in M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, which opened its doors to 3 stars. A vacation resort for the rich on an island that punishes crimes with death, with an alternative for those that can afford it in Infinity Pool, which received 3 stars. A romantic comedy where a couple arranges the meeting of their parents but find out they all know each other way too well in the new romantic comedy Maybe I Do, which received a cheap but elegant gift of 2.5 stars. And finally, Gerard Butler plays a pilot that must save his crew and passengers after crashing into unknown territory in Plane, which crashed its way to 2 stars. You can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. And make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Now it's that time of year again where in the Seattle area we have the Snohomish Film Festival coming up. You can now submit your film into the festival by going to www.filmfreeway.com/Snohomish Film Festival. It's going to be a great year and I cannot wait to see your movie. Now I want to take a moment to talk about a podcast that those that listen to my show know it is my go-to podcast for some of the most interesting conversations surrounding cult films and movies that deserve to resurface to audiences. And there is no other podcast that does that better than my friend Antonio over the Cult Worthy Cinema podcast. Let's hear from Antonio now.
The Cult Worthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cult Worthy Podcast. Join us.
4 travelers encounter a menacing phenomenon while camping on a remote stretch of the Mojave Desert in the new What the Hell Did I Just Watch film, The Outwaters.
I had a dream about my mom last night. She was like coming out of like a black storm, and it was her body, but her arms were part of the storm.
I had weird dreams too.
Can I hug you for a second?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. There's a lot of bees.
Yeah, we need to like leave. Oh my god. I don't want to be here anymore.
Soul of Christ, sanctify me. Body of Christ, save me. Blood of Christ, enable me. The holy side of Christ, wash me. Bench of Christ, strengthen me. Come on, Jesus. Father, enemy, defend me. Take out from my death, call me. Bid me to come to you.
Now, more recently, I reviewed another film just like this, entitled Skinamarink. This newfound elevated found footage horror concept is now a thing. These films take what we have been used to with its found footage movies, where most of the time we can see at least what the characters are doing and what's going on in the surrounding environment, to now this change up where it leaves the viewers with little to see with heightened audio, with the intent for the audience to use their internal fears and imagination to fill in the blanks. It's almost like filmmakers encouraging the audience to use Wikipedia trivia for their homework assignments. Now, this is one of those movies that will require a certain taste. Actually, even that particular taste might even have trouble digesting it after the last 5 minutes of the movie. And I'm going to admit, this is an interesting concept when it comes to what Skinamarink and now the Outwaters is doing. And I can see in a matter of time with a proper script, vision, and director, someone will come along and execute this properly. And even though my review of Skinamarink was pretty harsh, it was an experimental film using this vision, but it did fall completely on its face when tapping into the imagination piece, and the Outwaters is a significant improvement, but still with dramatic flaws. The Outwaters is written, directed, and stars Robbie Banfitch, who goes to the Mojave Desert with a group of friends until they experience unexplained sounds, vibrations, and unnatural animal behavior. One night, everything changes, sending the foursome in a night of insanity and terror. The story concept, of course, isn't a new one. The setting is of seclusion in the middle of the desert, which is a change from the forest, haunted house, cabin in the middle of the woods cliche, but the film's biggest success is the fact that it takes us on a well-placed journey leading up to a chaotic terror. The film almost feels like being sung a lullaby while falling asleep only to be awoken by a nightmare. The movie sets up the audience by not giving us characters that really have depth or are generally interesting, but rather what they do to give us a sense of calm to the audience. When Robbie Banfitch switches gears into the utter night of chaos is where he leans heavy on the elevated found footage idea, and he goes all in on the audio for the audiences to feel the stress. And this isn't just a load of things that go boom to generate scares, and it's actually quite brilliantly done and selective. Banfitch uses elongated tones and sounds to really tap into our heads like being hypnotized. As the Outwaters goes on, it reminds me of being in a sensory deprivation chamber with utilizing a lot of black screens and practical sensory lighting effects. Banfitch utilizes these elements a majority of the film, but this is where both Skinamarink and the Outwaters fails, is that it uses too much of this technique with little to see, and at times it can be frustrating. I found myself analyzing the screen side to side, up and down, in hopes I would see something. Don't get me wrong, the sound is the most impressive piece of this film, and that's where Skinamarink completely failed, and the sound in the Outwaters is at top form here, but there is only so much an audience can take before we get lost and detached from the story. The Outwaters is a film that doesn't only request your attention, but requires it, with little to visually see on screen when the events unfold, but if your eyes and mind are focused on what little is being seen and said, and allowing the sounds to be there for context clues, the reward for uniqueness is thought-provoking and a good little twist from the common predictability of these films, and it will certainly raise questions and a good conversation after the movie ends. This idea that Robbie Banfitch has and attempts to execute is solid, interesting, and I wish there would have been more to see given the interesting concept that he has. It's one that could have shown more but still utilized the style he was shooting for, because as we reach the climax, it can become a head scratcher even if you follow the concept of what's going on. And the audience has already worked so hard to discover Banfitch's story outline, and I would to question if a symbolic ending is what this film really needed, but rather have more of a participation reward for the audience for having the audience follow along Banfitch's vision for almost a 2-hour runtime. And that's not to say that The Outwaters is a bad film. There are moments of technical genius here, and that is saying a lot given this is a found footage film. But these technical moments tend to overstay their welcome. By the time we reach the actual climax, Banfitch treats the audience as one of his employees getting ready to leave for their weekend, and he's that boss that comes by you just before you leave and adds an additional hour of work on top of your desk. Although this movie may not be everyone's cup of tea, it deserves recognition for its ability to draw viewers into its dark and mysterious atmosphere that is supported by a top-notch sound production that takes viewers on quite a journey that will challenge your mind. Given the uniqueness of the surroundings, I wish Banfitch should have utilized a more visual aspect of the surrounding to his approach to the fear seclusion to really show the audience the dark environment in which the cast is in, or at least spending more time in light versus the darkness so the viewer can be familiar with the setting before he just goes completely dark on us. But with the same respect, I can understand what Banfitch was intending to do, which is to include the audience into the darkness of fear, but he needed to have a clear vision of how to portray hints of what the character is facing versus secluding the audience. The Outwaters is a movie that is as captivating as it is hard to see. Fans of the horror genre are sure to appreciate the intense dark atmosphere and its sound quality, which is second to none. The film definitely shouldn't be completely overlooked, and it should at least be seen for the astonishing audio production. I'm giving The Outwaters 2 stars. It It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. In oddball, groups of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converge on a Georgia forest where a huge black bear goes on a murderous rampage after unintentionally ingesting cocaine in the new Shakespearean comedy thriller Cocaine Bear.
Medic!
Oh, Jesus. What is that?
Beth, we should go.
Millions of dollars worth of cocaine fell from the sky this morning in Knoxville, Tennessee.
There's more of this out there. They dumped it somewhere.
I'm looking for my daughter.
Forest is a dangerous place.
Hey, Henry, check it out. Something got into it. A deer, maybe.
A lot of cocaine was lost. I need you to go and get it.
No, don't eat that, don't eat that. Let's see what kind of effect that has on
The bear! It fucking did cocaine! A bear did cocaine!
There was a bear!
A bear?
It was far!
Hey, that's inappropriate.
You're safe. Bears can't climb trees.
Of course I can!
Higher, baby.
Oh, shit.
Get higher, baby.
It kind of seems like the thing that stays with a man forever.
Apex predator. High on cocaine. Out of its mind. Oh man, you fucked.
What the fuck is wrong with that bear?
Shoot it, man! Bear, speed up!
Higher, baby. And don't ever come down.
We have such good luck in nature.
Cocaine Bear is hands down one of the most dumbest, idiotic, tasteless, brainless films that I have seen in a long time. At times it could just be complete bollocks. It's full of overacting, unrealistic behavior, makes light of illegal substances, and is just so stupid it was laughable. And I actually had an absolutely fun time watching it. Cocaine Bear is upfront on what kind of movie it wants to be. It doesn't try and fool anybody to be something that it's not, and it stays true to its vision of the story it wanted to tell. Now, in past episodes, I've given my prediction of the evolution of movies that will be coming to theaters, and my prediction is that we will see a lot less of the average forgettable films that studios may find a risk to show in theaters and make room for more independent indie films to appease one type of audience and then to cater to the other type of audience, where a movie is to gather an energetic crowd like The Mean One, Terrifier 2, and now Cocaine Bear. And to an extent, I am all for this, to give audiences to some films that wouldn't have a chance at a proper audience before. And people come to a theater not only to view a film, but to gather as an experience, and even just have a great time. Even though some of these movies may not be good, and most might just be downright horrible, but at least in a lot of cases with the right audience, might create a fun watching environment to compensate for what you are watching on screen. It's almost like going to the theater and having the same energetic energy as going to a sporting event, an audience rooting and supporting a movie even though they know deep down how bad it is. Now, speaking of energetic audiences, many of us will see this type of viewer when we go and watch Cocaine Bear, which is extremely loosely based on a true story. When in 1985, ex-narcotics officer Andrew Thornton, played in the movie by Matthew Rhys, brought more than 800 pounds of cocaine from Colombia into the U.S. by plane. Thornton thought he heard federal agents on the radio saying they were in hot pursuit. When he ditched the duffel bags full of coke in midair, he bailed out of the plane and was found dead in a Tennessee driveway. Now, yes, there was a black bear that ingested cocaine, but the black bear didn't kill or mutilate anybody. The bear's remains were found after dying of an overdose surrounded by 40 open containers of cocaine. The bear was stuffed and given the name Pablo Escobar and resides now in a Kentucky mall. The film got the beginning right, and the pitch of the movie probably went something like this. I want to do a movie based on a true story, but picture Lake Placid, snakes on a plane with a wet, hot American summer type of humor and tone. I mean, come on, a bear that consistently does lines of cocaine and gives over-the-top killings during its entire runtime. This can't lose. Cocaine Bear was meant for an audience that just wants to turn their brain off and have a good time. That pairs well with a lot of drinks before the movie, during the movie, at permitted theaters, and even right after the movie is over, along with some good company. The movie, even though intentionally ridiculous, can at times remind you of the quality of a Sharknado film when it comes to production value, and other times just seems so sloppy where you can tell the filmmakers ignored some noticeable points just using this type of movie as a pass. Now, Cocaine Bear's trailers have played in almost every movie I have viewed in theaters in the last few months, and as the trailer plays, the audience is usually silent from laughter until the main title pops up at the end, where we see random sounds of laughter throughout the theater. The movie almost plays out the same way as the trailer when we get about 75% of the movie in, and we notice that most of the funny, clever scenes are actually in the trailer. And we tend to get the chuckles when we see a giant grizzly bear ingesting coke each and every time. It's like when we see a cute animal in a family-friendly movie, whereas an audience we kind of just go, aw. But in this case, we see a grizzly bear drop a line of coke and we get pure laughter. The supporting cast of characters are written so purposely over the top and written extremely well for what they're trying to do that really just gives the feeling that these characters really truly belong in this movie. More specifically, Ranger Liz, played by Margot Martindale, our Forest Inspector Peter, played by Modern Family's Jesse Taylor Ferguson, and up-and-comer Scott Cease as our paramedic Tom that many may know from his viral Angry Retail Guy sketches, who I will predict we will see a lot more coming projects in the coming years. Scott Cease's on-screen presence and comedic timing is absolutely electrifying. And of course, not to mention the late, great, gone too soon Ray Liotta, who plays our crime boss Sid. These four cast members hold up our attention just as much as our coked up bear. But the problem we have is that these characters are written too well, and we don't get enough screen time compared to our other cast members that are just there to help drive the story along. But we really don't have a ton of memorable, engaging moments with these characters, and they can come across extremely dry on screen, along with dragging down the movie when we are left alone on screen with these other cast members. As we lead into the climax, the sense of fun becomes a little off balance. The film was directed by Elizabeth Banks from the original Spider-Man trilogy, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, The Hunger Games, and Brightburn, and the director of 2019's Charlie's Angels, Pitch Perfect 2, and the dreadful movie 43. But I have to say, this is a type of movie Banks found her control and the fun factor. Banks does a great job creating an environment and tone that reminds us of a cheesy 80s movie, but takes the tone down even further to remind us of a cheesy, low-budget 80s movie. But this isn't executed by the look of the bear necessarily, but rather the way the characters interact with each other and the cheesy over-the-top kills. Now, I have seen Cocaine Bear twice. I've seen it in a busy theater and a slow theater, and I will say that it is best viewed in a large group or with a large group of friends. What might hold this film back is when it's watched individually on streaming platforms, where we don't have an energetic audience that are there to see the same type of movie you are there for as well. This might make the film lose a little bit of the fun fun factor. Cocaine Bear has so many moments of where I wish they would have done this or wish they would have done that, but that doesn't take away from the fun factor it has with itself. Now, while reviewing Cocaine Bear, we have to keep a couple things into consideration. Is this trying to be Shakespeare? No. Is it trying to win an Academy Award? No. Is it trying to be a crowd pleaser? The answer is yes. Is it trying to be fun? The answer is yes. Does Elizabeth Banks succeed in this? The first half of the movie, yes, but it loses steam towards the end. But for the most part, she does succeed in creating an energetic movie that will be memorable. If we compare it to films like Lake Placid or Snakes on a Plane, it's not as fun as I had with those two movies, and that's solely due to the character balance, which does hold this film back from truly standing in the front of these two movies. But as you see in the trailer, the title, and the marketing, Cocaine Bear is exactly what you would expect. If you didn't laugh at the trailer or find it entertaining, you probably won't like this movie. It's just a dumb, stupid, fun time at the movies. I'm giving Cocaine Bear 3 stars. Motivations are suspect and expectations are turned chaos as a con artist takes on Manhattan billionaires in the psychological thriller directed by Benjamin Caron in the Apple TV Plus original Sharper.
Sir, the police are here.
Police? Get your hands off me! Detective, can we talk about this?
I'm gonna pay you for your time.
Stop. He's not a cop. This is what my son does. He plays these games.
All that work for $1,000. If you're gonna steal a lot. What are you doing here?
Just wanted to say hi.
Had a good time.
All right, cool. See you around, Dad.
I always assumed my son would inherit all this. He doesn't have the fortitude. He's weak.
Whoever said money can solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve them.
You like him a little bit.
Of course I like him. He's a billionaire.
Through some bad, I should be a savage. Who would have thought it turned me to a savage?
We're celebrating.
What exactly are we celebrating?
Billions of dollars. Roll up your sleeves. Trust me. You can't cheat an honest man. That's why we never feel sorry for the mark.
I really like you.
I really like you too. You lied to me.
We're all human. Just doing the best we can.
You cause your mother anguish, and I will not have it.
She wants me gone.
How do you think this ends?
Not well.
What did you tell him? I'm gonna take $1 billion and aim it in your direction.
Is this real?
This is real.
How can I be sure?
Sharper is a film that truly is more than a unique ride and style that we haven't seen in film in a long time. That is well cast, smart, and is a great balancing act among its character motivations. The film's biggest strength is the ability to make the audience question their own opinions amongst its characters during the entire runtime. It is a character-driven neo-noir film in which the mystery is around its characters that will stay with you well after the film is finished. Now, Sharper is split into 5 stories that all link together and intertwine as the story moves along. For the sake of non-spoilers, I will leave the titles and details absent from this review. I have always admired this attempt at storytelling. It challenges not only the writer but the audience. This is where the writer not only has to have an attention to detail, but pure confidence. The film was written by writing team Brian Gatewood and Alessandro Tanaka, who have worked on the TV show Superstore and 2011 Jonah Hill movie The Sitter. And these two show both of these traits of attention to detail and confidence. I was taken by surprise of these two writers that have just mainly focused on comedy, and to come out and tell a complex story like this right after just writing TV sitcoms and the dreadful movie The Sitter from 2011. It's a true testament to Gatewood and Tanaka on what their range can really be. Now, when we talk about confidence in writing, to tell a story like this, it is very easy to have a lot of holes for the audience to pick through. And I have now watched this film twice to try and find these holes in the storytelling. At my first watch, the cast of characters are so engulfing that they invite the audience to go along with them in each of their stories, where we just don't care to look for flaws, because what we are just being shown is a very interesting and engaging journey. When viewing for a second time by really looking for gaps, holes, and flaws, there are some to be had, and I can imagine this being noticeable flaws to Gatewood and Tanaka, but so minor that it is easily missed if you're not directly looking for them. And with how engaging this character-driven story is, the flaws are forgivable. The film surrounds itself with a small group of characters: Tom, played by Justice Smith, Sandra, played by Bianna Middleton, Sebastian Stan as Max, and Julianne Moore as Madeline. Now, I have said the characters are engaging as individuals, but where it really tends to lack is in its chemistry when they are on screen together. We can almost get a feel for the true selfishness of each character, and they use this motivation in their own role, but never really come out of it to give a truly convincing interaction with their other co-stars. But what saves the chemistry is the supporting cast that surrounds the cast when they're on screen together to give a better balance within each scene. The only exception of this is the performance of Justice Smith, who is the highlight of the film, who gives a convincing and consistent performance with each of the other characters, and to me had the most challenging role of the film. He had more motivational transitions throughout each story with different aspects of the reaction of emotion than any other character, and though at times consistently subtle, it subtly challenges his range without a complete character change. Now, Sebastian Stan's character Max is the most interesting one in this film. His performance is so unbalanced and inconsistent throughout the story, but his character in the first half really helps to kick off the plot on the right note by really grabbing our attention. The second half, he loses steam and becomes the most uninteresting character of the movie. So even though at any given time there is something happening that's interesting, that doesn't mean our main characters are always interesting. As our story leads to the climax, there is a lot of content to truly give a riveting finale, but then it falls up a little short and ends up being predictable, not because of laziness, but rather was the only way to truly make sense without tripping over itself and its identity of what it wants to be. Now, this is a film that would have been so easy to make overly complicated, filled it with complex dialogue to attempt to sound sophisticated, but the special thing about it is mainly from our two writers that are self-identified. And this is where their true talent shines in their writing, is that it never truly gives raw with the criminal aspect or too smart for its own good with its story. It really wants to keep in the middle, so audiences can easily follow along and ensure enjoyment in each and every story the movie tells. It's a great example of not contrasting super heavy on the good versus bad, because director Benjamin Caron doesn't want atmosphere changes to hemorrhage the fun guessing game for the movie. Sharper is an entertaining contemporary character mystery that is smart in the way it knows how to suck the viewer in and take us on a journey to the final result. That's just a fun ride. With its riveting neo-noir story, it keeps you guessing on what's going to happen during the climax, even though the climax may let some viewers down with its predictability, but it knows exactly what it is and what its vision wants to be, which is just an entertaining guessing game. I'm giving Sharper 3 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.